Everybody loves a good G chord, right? But what if you play one of these C over Ds before it? What a sweet resolution, right? And that's exactly what this lesson is all about. I want to show you these cool lesser known chords. I'm going to show you a real song that uses them, and I want to give you context so that you can start using these lesser known chords for yourself. The world of guitar chords is an absolute universe for you to express yourself with. So let's check out some of these lesser known chords so you can be a little bit more unique. So the first chord I want to show you today, I like to call A minor plus 2 because that name is a lot more simple than B minor 11 over A. So here's how we play it right here. You've got your A minor, right? And I like to say A minor plus 2 because you're just going to move that A minor up 2 frets. What a cool sounding chord. Like I said, its technical name is B minor 11 over A. And this is a fantastic chord to use anywhere near an A minor. If you want a little like fill chord to have with an A minor, just try moving it up 2 frets. What an awesome 2 chords, right? Those two sound so good together. And again, anytime you're playing A minor, try playing with this thing. And the song example I have for you guys is Moon Dance by Van Morrison. Does this. Adds one more chord. I'll show you in a sec. Nice, loud, stabby chords. So what we've got here is you've got A minor, move it up 2, just like I said. Hit it there. Now this next one, this is like an A major. You can do it with 3 fingers if you want, you know, like this, or even 1 finger. But any way that you play open A major, just play that at the 5th fret. Same bunch of strings. So A minor plus 2, A major at the 5th fret, and then back to the plus 2, and that's Moon Dance. It's got a nice kind of jazzy ring to it, right? Even if you don't know how to play jazz, you can use this as a little hack to sound jazzy, right? So I love that chord, B minor 11 over A, but I'd recommend calling it A minor plus 2. Now the second chord I have for you guys today is E major 7. Looks and sounds like this. So here's how we play this one. You've got your first finger on the 7th fret of the A string. I've got my 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the D string. My 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the G, and my pinky on the 9th fret of the B. And you can use your big low E below that. And that's our E major 7 chord right there. It's a 4-finger chord, so if you've never played that before, make sure you do a couple stretch, stick, strums, right? Get a little bit of muscle memory on that chord. This chord is one that I consider to be kind of like the secret sauce of the chord world. Check it out. If I go E major to A major, let's try swapping out this E for the E major 7. Right, what a cool sound compared to... And it's not like this to this sounds bad, but just this sounds way more colorful than this, right? So the major 7 is, like I said, it's a kind of a secret sauce. It's a way to make whatever chord progression you're playing way more colorful. George Harrison was definitely familiar with this chord. You see it in a lot of his solo music. But the example I have for you guys here today is Under the Bridge by the Chili Peppers. In that little bridge between the verse and the chorus, you get that... before we're on to the chorus after that, but just does one of those strums and just lets it ring. And it's exactly like I was mentioning. The song is in the key of E major at this part. He very could have easily just gone E major, but he went E major 7 because it just sounds way more colorful. And this is also a movable shape. This one's E because my first finger's on E right now. If I move it down 1, it's now a D sharp. Now it's a D. Whatever note your first finger is on, that's going to be the name of the major 7. So this is C major 7 because my first finger's on C. The third chord I have for you guys is E9. And this is another really fantastic way of playing an E chord. And just like the E major 7, depending on the song, this chord can be substituted for a regular E chord. It's a very interesting sound. So let's take a little look at how to play it here. So again, middle finger's on the root. I've got my middle finger on the 7th fret of the A string, my first finger on 6 of the D, third finger on 7 of the G, and pinky up on 7 of the B. And I'm strumming open E all the way up to the B string, so try not to hit your high E. And that is an E9 right there. Very bluesy sounding chord. So one of my favorite examples of this is right at the beginning of the song Chicken Strut by the Meters, which is a funk band, old school funk band, and they just do this big strum of the 9th chord right at the top of the song, and it's just a really cool way to start a song. Great way to funk around too. This is a very funky chord actually as well. If you want to play some funk or blues music, that's a good one to hit. And getting it into your own playing, it's kind of like the E major 7. So some songs, the E major 7 is going to work. Some songs, the E9 would work as a substitute for a regular E chord. If the song you're playing is more poppy, that's where the major 7 is going to be used. If the song you're playing is more bluesy, that's where the dominant 9 chord we just checked out, the E9, that's where that one's going to be used. It's a more bluesy sound, right? Just like before, I could go E to A, or I could go E9 to A major, right? It's a nice bluesy sound too, compared to E to A. Very cool, colorful, bluesy sounding chord, right? So again, if you're playing a pop song, major 7. If you're playing more something rocky or bluesy, that 9th chord might be the one. So both of those E chords are fantastic. Check them both out. And here is my 4th chord right here. It is a F sharp 11. And this one falls into the open bar chord category. It's called an open bar chord because if I had a regular bar chord at the 2nd fret, all I'm doing is kind of unbarring. So I let the 2 treble strings ring open rather than being barred with my first finger. So that's an F sharp 11. Yeah, right there. Very, very cool sounding chord. I love the sound of these open bar chords and even kind of jumping between, you know, regular bar to open bar chord, right? It's a beautiful sound. You get that in Rooster by Alice in Chains, right? F sharp to F sharp 11. Nice, colorful sounding chord. Now in Rooster, they also move it up and do the same thing at the 5th fret. So 5th fret bar chord, and then open bar chord at the 5th fret. There's my F sharp 11. And if you're curious, this is an A up here. When I make it an open bar chord, it's now an A add 9. But again, the chord of this one is the 2nd fret bar chord F sharp. If you want to rock hard, play in the key of F sharp. That's a quote by Tom Morello, and it's very true. F sharp is an interesting guitar key, so give that one a little check out. And open bar chords in general are a cool thing to check out, especially if you're playing with just a bass player and a drummer. If you're the only guitar player, the only chording instrument in the band, if you're in a power trio or something, check out these open bar chords. They really fatten up your sound. Bands like Rush would do that a lot, right? Instead of going, they do these like, he just puts these couple top open strings on top of the bar chords, and again, it makes it sound way bigger. It makes it sound like there's more than one guitar playing, right? So the chord of this one is the F sharp 11, but feel free to play around with any open bar chord. There's some cool sounds in there. The 5th chord is this voicing of the diminished chord right here. You see this one is surprising amount, more than any other diminished voicing here. So I've got my first finger on the 2nd fret of the D, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the G, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the B, and my pinky's on the 3rd fret of the high E. And that is a G diminished chord right there. And this is kind of a cool voicing for a diminished chord, right? Playing wise, I like to think about it as, you know, it's a D chord, right? Shift it up one string, then add your pinky down below. So you get something sort of familiar to work with. And diminished chords are really commonly used as passing chords, right? Like, you know, no one's gonna sit here strumming a diminished chord and singing something nice. This is not a nice sounding chord on its own. But like a lot of these amazing chords, it's a tension builder, right? Put it between two other chords and that's where you hear this one shine. So the song example I have for you guys, a George Harrison song. George loved diminished chords, especially on his solo work. And the song, Isn't It a Pity? He goes like this. We start off with a G major. Then we go to the diminished. And C, and back to G. And we repeat that whole thing, so G, diminished. Right? And that sounds like a really nice, soulful, beautiful chord progression, right? Even though it's got the world's ugliest chord sitting in there, right? There's such a horrible sounding chord, but stick it between a G and a C and all of a sudden it sounds a lot cooler, right? The sixth chord I have for you today is the movable sus2 voicing. Here's how it looks right here. So I've got the 4th fret on the A string, I've got the 6th fret on the D string, and the 8th fret on the G string. So 3 fingers. It's kind of like if you had a 3-finger power chord and you kick your pinky up too. I know this one can be a little bit of a stretch for some people to get that, all those fingers like that. But this is a really interesting sounding chord that you can move around. See, I say it's a movable chord because you can take that and just keep that uniform shape, right? 2 frets over, 1 string down, 2 frets over, 1 string down. Very interesting sound. Prog musicians love this chord. Right, it definitely has like kind of a progressive sound to it, right? But the song example I have for you guys is Message in a Bottle. Such a cool example of this. So you get that sus2 chord right there, 4th fret of the A. You pick through them, low to high. Then we go to the E string, 5th fret. 7th fret. And then down to the 2nd fret. At the very end, slide that pinky up 1 fret. So that's... Beautiful example of those. They were really big in the 80s too, so definitely want to check out these sus2 chords. If you know some power chords, you know, some power chord riffs, try switching out, adding in that thinky. All right, very interesting sounds hidden in that chord. My 7th and final chord for you today is the 4/5 chord. It sounds like this. So in actual name, it's a C over D that I'm playing right now. Doesn't really sound like much on its own. It's kind of just a bland chord, but when we stick this thing in context, your mind is gonna be blown. But let's learn how to play it first. So in this voicing, I've got my 3rd finger on the 10th fret of the big E string, pinky on the 10th fret of the D, 2nd finger on the 9th fret of the G, and then 1st finger on the 8th fret of the B. So it's a chord that wants to go somewhere else. So when I hear that, it wants to jump back and wants to play a G after that, right? Right, it almost sounds like a cadence, right? Just like this resolution, right? Boom, right? But put this thing in context as well. One of my favorite examples of this is the Commodore's Easy, right? You get this G, B minor, A minor to the new chord. I absolutely love that. So take this chord and use it as the 2nd last chord in the song, right? Use this to get back to the 1 chord. It's a very interesting sound. And functionally, it's called the 4/5 chord because you're sticking it right at the 4/5 chord zone. So I was in the key of G. I've actually got a C chord over D. That's the 4 chord with the 5th chord bass note. All right, so C with a D on the bass. So those are my 7 favorite less common guitar chords. And just for sticking around to the end of this lesson, I've got an awesome gift for you. I'm talking about this book right here. This book is called How to Instantly Solo in Any Key, and it'll definitely get you soloing and having fun on the fretboard. The first thing this book is going to do is it's going to give you the ability to see any key almost immediately on the fretboard. And the second thing it's going to do is it's going to give you a little formula to show you how you can solo in any key. And it's 100% yours and it's 100% free. So click here now to get your copy. You'll also find a link in the description of this video. Guitar is a very quickly rewarding instrument, and it's lessons like these that'll get you having fun without being too bogged down by theory or any of the boring stuff. So check it out.